What if I told you that Pacific Rim was set up to become the next big sci-fi franchise? But instead, its sequel tanked so hard that most people pretend it doesn't even exist. Yeah, that's the wild fall of Pacific Rim, Uprising, a movie that somehow managed to take giant robots fighting sea monsters and make it boring. But how does a movie with everything going for it, a fan base, a big budget, and an epic setup, completely miss the mark? Stick around, because we're digging into what really went wrong, and trust me, it's more than just bad writing. Alright, let's rewind for a second. The first Pacific Rim, directed by Guillermo del Toro, wasn't just another CGI monster movie. It had soul, it had style. It was the kind of film that felt like a love letter to both anime and old-school kaiju flicks. A perfect mashup of Evangelion and Godzilla, but with del Toro's signature touch. The world building was deep. The mechs, or Jaegers, felt real, and most importantly, the fights had weight. Every punch, every crash had gravity. Not just physically, but emotionally too. Charlie Hunnam's Raleigh, Idris Elba's badass, cancel the apocalypse speech, Rinko Kikuchi's Mako, these characters had arcs. There was a reason to care. Sure, it was cheesy at times, but it owned that. And the tone was consistent. Serious stakes, cool visuals, and just enough fun to not take itself too seriously. Now, fast forward to Pacific Rim, Uprising, and everything's just off. Del Toro stepped away, and instead of elevating what he built, the sequel kind of forgot why the original worked in the first place. Instead of a grounded, emotional sci-fi action film, we got this weird Saturday morning cartoon energy. Like Power Rangers meets a Transformers knockoff. And John Boyega, who honestly could have carried this franchise, was tossed into a script that gave him barely anything compelling to work with. No more slow burn tension. No more earned emotion. Just shiny, fast, loud chaos. And here's the kicker. Uprising wasn't made to tell a story. It was made to build a franchise. The goal wasn't to make you feel something. The goal was to sell toys, spin-off animated shows, and marvelize the universe. It felt more like a product pitch than a passion project. And that's when everything started falling apart. So here's where things started going downhill. And yeah, it begins at the top. Guillermo del Toro didn't direct Uprising, and that one decision changed everything. Now, Stephen S. DeKnight stepped in. And look, no shade, he's done solid work on Daredevil and Spartacus. But stepping into a world designed by someone as visually and emotionally detailed as del Toro, that's a tough ask for anyone. You could feel it from the first scene. The tone was off. Instead of that gritty, industrial, end-of-the-world vibe from the first film, Uprising opens with this super polished, neon-lit energy that feels off-brand. The whole vibe is less humanity's last hope and more Saturday morning action series. It felt like a totally different universe. And let's talk about the pacing. Uprising moves fast, but not in a good way. Important plot points are skipped over. Emotional beats are rushed. It's like the movie is in a hurry to get to the next flashy fight scene, whether or not the story actually makes sense. It doesn't build tension, it just checks boxes. Also, remember how the original Pacific Rim treated the kaiju like these god-level threats? They had mystery, fear, weight. Uprising turns them into set dressing. Suddenly there's a rogue Jaeger, drones, hybrid kaiju. And yeah, that sounds cool in theory, but none of it has emotional or narrative impact. There's no suspense, no dread. Just more stuff happening, faster and louder. And weirdly, despite being bigger, the world feels smaller. There's no global scope, no real stakes. It's like the apocalypse already got canceled, so now we're just watching leftovers from a better movie. When the foundation is built on passion and the sequel is built on a business model, it shows. And this movie practically screams, we didn't really want to make a story. We just didn't want to lose the IP rights. Okay, let's talk characters. Or, more accurately, the lack of character. One of the things the first Pacific Rim did surprisingly well was give its cast depth. Mako's trauma, Raleigh's grief, even the quirky scientists. They all had emotional layers that connected you to the story. Now contrast that with Uprising. John Boyega plays Jake Pentecost, the son of Idris Elba's character from the first movie. That should be a huge deal, right? But the script gives him next to nothing to work with. He's cocky, he's charming, sure. But he's barely developed beyond that. You never feel like he's truly conflicted or growing. It's just surface-level swagger, and it gets worse. Most of the new cadets are completely forgettable. They're basically name tags in jumpsuits. There's a subplot with one of them building her own Jaeger from scraps, which sounds cool. But it's rushed, underdeveloped, and emotionally empty. Nothing lands. And let's not even get started on Mako. Remember how central and powerful she was in the first film? In Uprising, she's sidelined, underused, and then unceremoniously killed off. No emotional weight, no closure, just gone. That felt like a slap in the face to fans who actually cared about these characters. The writing doesn't help either. The dialogue is filled with clunky exposition, forced one-liners, and weird tonal shifts. Characters will joke seconds after massive destruction, or drop emotional lines that feel completely unearned. It's trying to be snappy and heartfelt at the same time, and ends up being neither. There's no emotional glue holding it all together, no character you really root for, no arc that sticks. Without that connection, the explosions just become noise. And by the time the credits roll, you're not asking what's next. You're wondering why you even bothered. Now, here's the wild part. Even the action, which is supposed to be the big payoff, falls flat in Uprising. And that's insane, right? We're talking about massive robots fighting giant monsters. That should be automatic popcorn movie gold. But here's the thing. In the original Pacific Rim, every fight felt massive. Del Toro made you feel the size and scale of the Jaegers. The camera moved like it had weight. There was a sense of gravity. When a mech punched a kaiju, it was like a skyscraper throwing a punch. You felt the crunch. You felt the tension. In Uprising, the action is faster, flashier, but also weightless. Everything moves like a video game cutscene. The camera never settles, there's no impact, and the physics go out the window. It's all visual noise, shiny, chaotic, and ultimately forgettable. And what's worse, there's no suspense. In the first film, the Jaegers struggled. They got damaged. Pilots were vulnerable. The stakes were high. In Uprising, the robots just bulldoze through enemies like they're made of paper. No tension, no strategy, just power fantasy. They even throw in new tech like drone Jaegers and kaiju hybrids, which sounds cool. But it's never explained well. The movie just keeps throwing more at you, hoping something sticks. It's like visual escalation for the sake of escalation. Bigger, shinier, louder, but never smarter. The final battle in Tokyo should have been a jaw-dropper. Instead, it just kind of happens. Buildings explode, monsters scream, and then it's over. There's no emotional climax, no payoff for the characters, no holy crap moment like the Hong Kong fight from the first movie. At the end of the day, more CGI doesn't equal more excitement. Without storytelling and stakes, the action just becomes a blur. It's a fireworks show, loud and bright, but gone in seconds, and you don't really remember what you just saw. Now let's get real. A big reason Uprising feels so hollow: studio interference. This wasn't a movie made because a passionate filmmaker had a story burning inside them. This was a movie made because the studio wanted to protect the IP, expand the brand, and maybe, just maybe, squeeze out a cinematic universe. You can practically see the boardroom decisions baked into the script. Let's add younger cadets to appeal to teens. Throw in drone Jaegers. Kids love drones, right? How about some flashy hybrid monsters to sell toys? Every creative choice feels driven by marketing potential, not storytelling. Del Toro had a clear vision, a singular, stylized world that celebrated and reimagined kaiju and mecha tropes. The studio saw a franchise waiting to happen. Sequels, spin-offs, cartoons, merch, you name it. And that mindset shows painfully. But here's the problem. Pacific Rim wasn't built to be a franchise like Marvel or Star Wars. It was a contained, original story with a definitive ending. Forcing it into an assembly line sequel stripped away the uniqueness that made the first film stand out. You can't just slap a shared universe template on every cool sci-fi idea and expect it to work. And by 2018, audiences were already getting franchise fatigue. Between Marvel, Transformers, DC, people were drowning in shared universes and connected storylines. So when Uprising showed up, it didn't feel special. It felt corporate, manufactured, like a sequel nobody really asked for, but the studio felt obligated to make. That's the irony. In trying to make Pacific Rim bigger and broader, they made it blander. In chasing the formula of other cinematic universes, the studio forgot what made their own film resonate in the first place: passion, creativity, and heart. So, what can we learn from Pacific Rim Uprising? Simple. You can't manufacture heart. A sequel needs more than bigger explosions and flashier tech. It needs vision, soul, and characters we actually care about. Otherwise, it's just noise. And honestly, Uprising is a prime example of what happens when studios chase trends instead of trusting creators. It's a cautionary tale. not just for Hollywood, but for any franchise trying to stay relevant. But hey, that's just my take. What do you think? Did Uprising deserve the hate? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into pop culture.